AI and Web3, they're everywhere you look these days, right?
Yeah.
But how do they actually, work together? We're doing a deep dive today into an article by Andrew Kamsky, and he thinks this could be the beginning of something huge, decentralized intelligence.
See, that's what's so interesting. We talk about them like they're totally separate things, AI and Web3, but Kamsky's saying they're really intertwined.
Let's unpack that a little. Most people, when they hear Web3, they probably think cryptocurrency.
Right.
This article says it's way bigger than that.
100%. Yeah, crypto's a part of it, sure. But the core idea here is decentralization. It's about giving users control again. Imagine, instead of big tech companies holding all the cards, your data, your digital assets, they belong to you. That's the potential of Web3, and it's all built on things like blockchain and NFTs.
And just so everyone's on the same page, when we say NFTs here, we're not just talking about like digital art, right? It's bigger. It's about representing ownership of any digital thing, which is kind of essential for that user-controlled internet everyone's talking about.
Exactly. And that's where AI comes into play. Remember when AI was like this futuristic concept? Now we've got IBM Watson, which this article really highlights, especially in healthcare.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not science fiction anymore. The article talks about how IBM Watson can look at a medical image and maybe catch a disease way earlier, way more accurately than a human doctor. Think of what that means for actually preventing these things, treating them better.
Totally. It's completely changing the game. Healthcare, but other stuff too.
Kamsky uses a great analogy, by the way, to explain how fast all this is moving. He talks about something called the S-curve of innovation.
Right. The S-curve. Think about the early internet. Remember dial-up? Waiting forever for a web page to load. Took forever to download a single song. Took a while for that technology to mature. He's saying we're going to see that same kind of acceleration with Web3, and that AI is going to be a huge part of making it happen.
So we went from dial-up to broadband. Now we're going from what, Web 2 to Web 3. And AI is going to be the thing that really makes it explode.
That's the idea. And that's where the two things coming together, AI and Web3, it gets really interesting. He paints this picture of, metaverse economies powered by AI, personalized avatars that learn what you like, all sorts of stuff. But he's not naive about it. He knows there'll be bumps in the road. He talks about some serious challenges, too.
Like what? Give us the downsides.
Well, he's concerned about scalability, for one thing. Like, can these decentralized systems actually handle, millions, billions of people all making transactions? It's a lot. And then there's regulation. Laws and stuff always seem to be way behind the technology. So if nobody's really in control of Web3, how do we make sure AI is being developed ethically, that users are protected, all of that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a Wild West right now, you could say.
Yeah.
Are there any answers out there, any solutions people are looking at?
He mentions a couple of things. For scalability, there's something called sharding, which is basically breaking the blockchain down into smaller pieces that are easier to manage. Developers are working on that.
So instead of one massive pizza, you've got like lots of smaller slices. Easier to share.
Exactly. Regulation, though, that's much trickier. Kamsky thinks we need some clear ground rules to make sure all this new tech isn't misused, obviously. But at the same time, you don't want to stifle innovation, right? It's about finding that balance, which is tough.
For sure. What about data privacy? Everyone's worried about that these days. You said Web3 could give people more control, but what does that look like in reality?
Well, think about it. Right now, all our data is basically held by these big tech companies. They track everything. What websites you visit, what you buy, even where you physically go. With Web3, the idea is that your data would live on a decentralized network, so only people you give permission to can access it.
So you've got the keys to your own little data vault. No one else can get in unless you say so.
Kind of, yeah. And the article points to blockchain as the key here, because it's, by its very nature, super secure and transparent, so it could be a much safer way to handle all this personal data.
Okay, that makes sense. But I'm still trying to fully wrap my head around this whole DAO thing. What are they and where do they fit into all this?
Imagine a group of people getting together to build a company, but there's no CEO, no central authority. Decisions are made collectively, and they're all coded into the blockchain using these things called smart contracts, which means they happen automatically. That's a DAO. And AI can make them even more efficient.
Wait, so instead of a CEO making all the calls, you've got AI helping to analyze the data, automate the tasks based on what the DAO members decide together.
Exactly. It's about making organizations more democratic, more efficient.
That's pretty cool. Is this actually happening anywhere, though? Real-world examples?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Kamsky talks about how there are DAOs already managing investment funds, funding creative projects, all sorts of stuff. It's early days, sure, but the point is, We're starting to see how these concepts can actually work in the real world.
So it's not just a bunch of theory, it's becoming reality.
Mhm.
But I know you said Kamsky doesn't want us to get ahead of ourselves, get caught up in all the hype.
He doesn't. And, it's understandable. Anytime something new comes along, there's going to be hype, right? People get excited, maybe a little carried away. But he's saying, look, let's focus on the real problems these technologies can solve. That's what matters.
What are some of those real-world problems he's talking about?
One big one is energy and resource management. Think about all the data generated by energy grids, transportation systems, even just our own homes.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, right? We're practically drowning in data these days.
Exactly. And that's his point. Instead of just letting it pile up, what if we used AI to actually make sense of it in real time? Optimize how we use energy, cut down on waste, create a more sustainable future, all that.
Okay, I'm seeing where you're going with this. How does blockchain fit in?
Well, blockchain could bring in that security and transparency so we can build these more equitable energy systems. Imagine people could even trade energy directly with each other.
Wow, that's a whole different ballgame. So we've got AI, blockchain, Web3, all these things we thought were separate, but they're all connected in a way.
It's yeah, puzzle pieces, and we're finally starting to see how they all fit together. But like any puzzle, there are still some missing pieces.
Right, right. Kamsky actually ends on that note, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Kind of leaves us with something to think about.
Yeah, he asks this really thought-provoking question. If AI and Web3 are going to change everything, what's your role going to be in this new decentralized future?
It's a call to action,
Yeah.
almost. Are we going to just sit back and watch it all happen? Or are we going to actually try to shape how this technology is used, how it's governed? It's a big question.
Huge. And that's what I love about these deep dives. It's not just about, learning a few new things. It's about thinking critically, really engaging with these big ideas.
Exactly. So to everyone listening out there, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on AI and Web3? What excites you? What scares you? Head over to our website, find us on social media. Let's keep this conversation going. And until next time, keep diving.